Does one of you want to share the invocation verses here? Well, I mean scroll. So, someone want to do it? Om Agyanatrimyandasya Vyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmridam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantigam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Krishna Pada Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namuste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchagalpatarusvyascha Kripasindhubheva-cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vishnu Padaya Vishnaya Bhitare Shri Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Dinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshata. Obeisances to our Gaudiya Guru Varga, my dear Diksha Guru, my many Shiksha Gurus, and to all of the assembled Vaishnavas, even online as well, if anyone is joining online. So, we are continuing our Srimad Bhagavatam reading. Our subject matter is the Enlightened Path for Old Men. Yes. Very interesting. Yes. We're all actually.
I feel like a young person.
That's good. I feel like I'm in ignorance. So, where are we? Yes, the last verse was, "There's no need to live a degraded life and subsist on the charity of those whom you tried to kill by arson and poisoning. You also insulted one of their wives and usurped their kingdom and wealth." So, in our lives, we may give someone trouble at some point, but it become very degraded if then we have to depend on people we've given trouble. So it's so Dhritarashtra, he gave a lot of trouble to his nephews and his family members, and he started a whole war actually. But after it was all said and done, they took care of him because it was their duty and it was the proper thing to do. But he is so kind of degraded so low that he accepted. Is yes, okay, good, and he tried to find happiness in that degraded situation. But it's really miserable, and Vidura is letting him know that this is terrible, actually. So a very fearful position you're in. So he'll continue like this. Tasyapi tavadehoyam Kripanasya jivisho Paraitya nichato jirno Charaya vasasiva Tasya, of this, api, in spite of, tava, your, deha, body, ayam, this, kripanasya, of one who is miserly, jijibisho, of you who desire life, parayiti, will dwindle, anichata, even unwilling, jirnaha, deteriorated, jaraya, old, vasasi, garments, eva, like. Despite your unwillingness to die and your desire to live even at the cost of honor and prestige, your miserly body will certainly dwindle and deteriorate like an old garment. He's very strong with his brother. The words kripanasya jijivisho are significant. There are two classes of men. One is called the kripana, and the other is called the brahmana. The kripana, or the miserly man, has no estimation of his material body, but the brahmana has a true estimation of himself and the material body. The kripana, having a wrong estimation of his material body, wants to enjoy sense gratification with his utmost strength, and even in old age he wants to become a young man by medical treatment or otherwise. Dhritarashtra is addressed herein as a kripana, because without any estimation of his material body, he wants to live at any cost. Vidura is trying to open his eyes to see that he cannot live more than his term and that he must prepare for death. Since death is inevitable, why should he accept such a humiliating position for living? It is better to take the right path, even at the risk of death. Human life is meant for finishing all kinds of miseries of material existence, and life should be so regulated that one can achieve the desired goal. That's actually a very strong sense. Human life is meant for finishing all kinds of miseries of material existence. So that means it's for getting out of samsara. Samsara dava nalalita loka. So right, samsara is a forest fire which is afflicting the whole world. This birth and death that we're taking place in. In the human body, this is your vehicle to finish the business, to cross over the ocean. But we're the kripanas, or the miserly persons. They try and extract as much pleasure out of the body as they can, not realizing that they're just setting themselves up for millions upon millions of more kripana existences, miserly existences filled with suffering. So this is what the human life is for, is to walk the noble path, the right path, and actually be freed from the sufferings of this world. But it's a very, as Jesus would say, it's a very narrow path. You know, it's a very narrow path to utilize the human form this way. But this is what we're called to do. This is what the human being is meant for. The noble path of religion. Only few can walk the path. But you know what? Only human body is the only body who can do it. Every other body is just meant for what Dhritarashtra is trying to do. Get as much sense gratification. Even in we talked about it being like a dog yesterday. A dog is willing to do so many humiliating things just for a treat, you know? So like this, Dhritarashtra is willing to put himself in such a miserable, humiliating situation just for a little bit of his, whatever remaining sense gratification he can get. Yes?
They used to call it selling one's soul.
Yes.
Determining the cost of your soul.
Yeah, what profiteth a man if he gains the whole world, if he gives up his immortal soul, as the Christians say in the Bible. There is no profit there at all. If you get everything in the world, and Dhritarashtra's got this old king's body, he's being treated royally, he's in the royal palace, even in a humiliating situation, he's completely dishonored, he lost all his children. It's a horrible situation, actually. But still, he's trying to enjoy. Because ultimately, he's a kripana. And Vidura is trying to actually make him a brahmana, not like the caste brahmana. He's trying to be someone who's fully immersed in Brahman. So this is, and that's spirit, the spiritual reality, the absolute truth. So this is what Vidura is trying to do for him. And this is what the sadhu is trying to do for the world. To try to actually make one Brahman. Understand Brahman as reality. Understand the absolute truth. What is the ultimate goal of life? Especially this human life. So Dhritarashtra, due to his wrong conception of life, had already spoiled 80% of his achieved energy. So it behooved him, or it means it was in his best interest, to utilize the remaining days of his miserly life for the ultimate good. Such a life is called miserly because one cannot properly utilize the assets of the human form of life. Only by good luck does such a miserly man meet a self-realized soul like Vidura, and by his instruction gets rid of the nescience of material existence. So you may ask, well, why is this miserly? I have a nice wife, I have a nice kid, I have some money, I have houses, I have all of the, this thing, that thing, the other thing. I enjoyed this thing and I did this experience, I had this experience. Why is this miserly? Is that a good question? Why?
I think because he's keeping for himself what belongs to Krishna.
Well, yes, and then also because ultimately, as Prabhupada's saying, you cannot utilize any of these assets of the human form of life. None of these experiences go with you. Even like, we've all had eternal existence. Who here remembers who your mother was in your past life? Who remembers your brother, your girlfriend, the crazy times you had in youth? None of it. None of it is relevant now. But we put so much stock. Who is my husband? Who is my relationship? What kind of job I'm going to get? What kind of, and we put so much energy, but none of these assets can actually be utilized at all. So it's a miserable endeavor. It's endeavoring for something that's useless. Endeavoring for like a lump of rocks. Yes, look at that.
Nor will anyone remember you.
Exactly.
One generation goes by.
It's it.
My nieces or whoever, they won't remember me.
Yeah.
They don't want any of my stuff. Nothing that meant anything to me does anyone want.
It's
Nothing.
true. It's true.
It'll be out by the street.
So if you put all your stock into this, it would be a miserable endeavor. But, if we understand, but you look, we're still talking about personalities from 5,000 years ago, but we're not glorifying, they had a lot of wealth and they had a lot of money. No. Those who will be remembered are the ones who took to that noble path, that Brahmin path. So this is what we're called to do. So, only by good luck does such a miserly man meet a self-realized soul like Vidura, and by his instructions get rid of the nescience of material existence. Only by good luck, somehow or other, a sadhu has come across our life. Only by good luck. That's the only way it happens. Just we receive good fortune, we were in miserable existence, and somehow or another, some derivative of a sadhu came to us. Even if it's a Vartma Pradarshika guru. Just like a simple devotee on the street just saying like, hey, you should check out this book or something like that. You could say a derivative of a sadhu. And then even more fortunate is someone to meet a self-realized soul like Vidura, who could totally extricate them from this material existence. So anyway, let's continue on. Gata svartam imang deham virakto mukta bandanaha avigyata gatir jahya savaidira udaritaha gatasva artham, without being properly utilized. Imam, this, deham, material body, viraktaha, indifferently, mukta, being freed, bandhana, from all obligations, avigyata, gati, unknown destination, jahya, one should give up this body, saha, such a person, vai, certainly, dhira, undisturbed, udahrita, is said to be so. He is called undisturbed who goes to an unknown remote place and freed from all obligations, quits his material body when it has become useless. Purport. Narottam Das Thakur, a great devotee and Acharya, the Gaudiya Vaishnava sect, has sung, "My Lord, I have simply wasted my life. Having obtained the human body, I have neglected to worship your lordship, and therefore I have willingly drunk poison." In other words, the human body is especially meant for cultivating knowledge of devotional service to the Lord, without which life becomes full of anxieties and miserable conditions. Therefore, one who has spoiled his life without such cultural activities is advised to leave home without knowledge of friends and relatives, and being thus freed from all obligations of family, society, country, etc., give up the body at some unknown destination so that others may not know where and how he has met his death. So Prabhupada is kind of clarifying. The instruction that Dhritarashtra is getting isn't the instruction that's for everybody, actually. This is for someone who wasted their life. Like Dhritarashtra actually completely wasted his life. He made all kinds of offenses, he did terrible things. And so now he's still wrapped up in this family business. So he's saying, just remove yourself from this situation. Better you go by yourself and die. That's what he's actually saying. But there's going to be different layers of this. Dhira means one who is not disturbed, even when there is sufficient provocation. One cannot give up a comfortable family life due to his affectionate relation with wife and children. Self-realization is obstructed by such undue affection for family. And if anyone is at all able to forget such a relation, he is called undisturbed or dhira. This is, however, the path of renunciation based on a frustrated life. But stabilization of such renunciation is possible only by association with bona fide saints and self-realized souls, by which one can be engaged in the loving devotional service of the Lord. So, if someone renounces their family, oh, my wife is giving me trouble, she's giving me trouble, my children are giving me trouble, all of my responsibilities are giving me trouble. This is one level of renunciation. But then there's another level of renunciation. By you getting association with bona fide saints, and they're naturally renounced due to their complete engagement in devotional service of the Lord, that renunciation actually is topmost. But that can only happen if somehow or other you come across a sadhu who's engaged in devotional service and they teach you the art of devotional service. Otherwise, all renunciation is just realizing the frustrated miseries of life. That's really all it is, actually. But if you do meet a sadhu and they can teach you this bona fide renunciation, because you're not artificially detaching. You're so attached to Krishna consciousness. You're so attached to devotional service that naturally, it's like, many college students eat ramen noodles, right? And they're like, oh, ramen noodles, this is good, And they don't know how to cook. They don't have any access to good food, so they're eating this trash food, and they think it's good. But then someone takes them over and says, oh my God, you're eating this college garbage? Please, come here. And they make you a nice home-cooked meal of, like a pho or something like this. What do they call it, right? Or pho, whatever, the Korean noodles and things like that. And it's so good and it's so tasty. And you're just like, wow. And they're like, come on, you could eat this every day. And you'll say, all right, I'll be over at 12 every day. Pho, instead of ramen noodles, you get this. So when you meet somebody who's engaged in devotional service and you see how they live their life and you see just how much nectar is going through their existence, then when you look back at your life, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. This is crazy. I can't believe I was living like this. So you develop, and then you'll be detached from that thing. I can't believe I was so attached to these ramen noodles. They're crazy. But there's many ramen noodles in life. Our relationships, our emphasis on bodily pleasures and sense gratification, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, all these animalistic propensities of life. When you meet somebody who has real pleasure in the spiritual process, all that stuff looks, all this eating, sleeping, mating, defending, it seems useless. Actually, because it is. So someone who's dhira, they're not disturbed by all these temptations. So it's in our best interest. Krishna calls for us to become sthita dhira munis. Someone who's totally fixed in thoughtfulness on the Supreme. This is Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter. There's also a verse, the beginning of Upadeshamrita, actually, the first verse of what we read last night. Vacho vegam, one who can control the speech. Manasakroda vegam, one who can control the dictates of the mind, the temptations of the mind, and the dictates of anger, when our senses aren't being pleased, because that's what happens. Do you ever get like a little hungry or a little sleepy and you get cranky? That's what's happening. The reason you get, like my son is always cranky because he cannot sleep properly or he's hungry. And he's getting very cranky. Why? Because he's not in a position to be, dhira, undisturbed. He's in this baby form. And so he's disturbed by every little, his sense gratification isn't met, he's very disturbed. But we also can get like this, I haven't eaten today and now I'm very mean to everybody. Or, I haven't, I didn't get enough sleep last night, so now I'm very angry. So only an undisturbed, a dhira person, he can control the urges of the mind and the urges of krodha, anger. So then he says, jiva vegam, udara pasta vegam. He can control the urges of the tongue. The tongue will just want to eat and eat and eat and taste so many varieties of so many different things. But the dhira person, he can control that. Udara pasta vegam. the belly always wants to get full and feel very it's satisfied when it's very full, and then the genitals always want to be used. They want to extract pleasure, so the sex life. But the Dhira person, he's not disturbed by them because he knows none of this actually can give me real long-term happiness. None of this is actually useful for my human form of life. And then the last verse is Sarvam apimam pritibim sashishyat, the last line. Such a person can actually make disciples all over the world. Such a Dhira person. So this is, we really want to meet such a Dhira person, but the Bhagavatam is calling for us to become Dhira. Become Dhira. Not artificially, you must, in order to become Dhira, you have to meet someone who's Dhira. And that Dhira person can impart their Dhira wisdom to you so you can become Dhira. But it takes service. Serving that person, being humble before that person, clarifying all your doubts with that person, and then they will give you that knowledge which will give you what they have. So this is what we should do. This is self-realization. So, only by association with bona fide saints and self-realized souls, by which one can be engaged in the loving devotional service of the Lord, you'll have such a stable renunciation. Sincere surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord is possible by awakening the transcendental sense of service. This is made possible by association with pure devotees of the Lord. Dhritarashtra was lucky enough to have a brother whose very association was a source of liberation for his frustrated life. That's the great hope. He has sadhu sangha in the form of a brother. It could come in any form. It could come in the form of a son. It could come in the form of a relative. It can come in the form of the random guy you met on the street. But sadhu sangha, sarva shastrikai, lava matra sadhu sangha, sarva siddhihai. So all the shastras say that sadhu sangha, even a moment's association can give one complete perfection. This is Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this is what we should be seeking out in our life. We're seeking so many things. I just got to get my job. I just got to get my relationship. I got to put this all in order. What do we really have to put in order? Sadhu sangha. What type of access to sadhu do I have in my life? Very important. That's why, even here, what can be attractive for people staying at the ashram is association with the sadhus. And yes, you might have realized by now I am not a sadhu. Cat's out of the bag, I'm not a sadhu. But the good news is we do have a chance to invite sadhus here. And then we do have a chance to go through some of the processes that sadhus have given us. And then by that, we make advancement and sadhus will come to us in our life. And we've seen it already. Like everyone here has scheduled or has taken initiation this year. And Piyush, you'll also do in some time, But this is, why? Because they've met the sadhus. What's that?
I'm a bad fish.
No, you're not a bad fish. You just had a little too much in the way of your mind right now. But you have every opportunity. That's why Krishna might have you stay here a little longer. He said, no, do another round for some time, just because he wants to protect you. So no problem. So let's continue on. Yaswakat parato veha Jata nirveda atmavan Hridi kritva haringeha Pravrajetsa narotama. Yeah. Anyone who swakat, by his own awakening, paratava, or by hearing from another, iha, here in this world, jata, becomes, nirveda, indifferent to material attachment, atmavan, consciousness, hridi, within the heart, kritva, having been taken by, harim, the personality of Godhead, geha, from home, pravrajet, goes away, saha, he is, nara uttama, the first-class human being. Translation: he is certainly a first-class man who awakens and understands, either by himself or from others, the falsity and misery of this material world, and thus leaves home and depends fully on the personality of Godhead residing within his heart. Who here is trying to be a first-class human being? Yes, Madhav, Adya. What do you think, Piyush? Jagadish? Good idea or no?
Sure.
Yes, yes, good, very good idea.
Yeah.
This is the secret. Either by himself or from others. The others are right now coming to us via Prabhupada's Bhagavatam and the Bhagavatam itself, saying the falsity and misery of this material world. He awakens and understands the falsity and misery of this material world and thus leaves home and depends fully on the personality of Godhead residing within his heart. Now, there's a couple ways to renounce home. Now, you see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's example that he didn't have everyone, just become sannyas or things like this. But he called for everyone to renounce material life. But you could even be in the midst of your family life, like Ramananda Roy. But he was the most renounced, and he was giving sannyasis lessons. He is also a Nitya Siddha incarnation from the spiritual world. But even look at Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or our Gaudiya Guru Varga. He did renounce at one later, but practically throughout his life he was renounced, living as a grahastha, an honorable grahastha. But the main thing is that we must realize the falsity and misery of the material world and leave this type of home, this type of existence. So maybe for me, it was having to leave my parents' home. My parents' home, it just wasn't a conducive place for self-realization. It's still not a conducive place for self-realization. We go visit time to time. But it's for me, that was leaving my parents' home and moving into the temple. And that began. And then now we have a home, and we're living in a home. But this isn't my home for sure. But also, this is a place where we depend fully on the personality of Godhead. We're not working, except we go out on, book distribution, or we rent Airbnb, or somehow or other, something or other sustains this place. But somehow or other, this is actually a renounced situation to a certain degree. I mean, there's definitely higher tiers of renunciation that can and will come. But this is the work of a first-class man, is to actually awaken and understand this thing is miserable. Chasing the job, chasing the husband, chasing the material pleasures is false and miserable. It can't give you happiness. Please understand. Please, please, please.
What's coming to my brain is that as we obtain from the spiritual master, being established more in Krishna and the taste of Krishna,
yes,
and that higher taste, renunciation
becomes easy.
It's easy.
Yes.
And we can be where we are.
Yes.
But if we're established in Krishna, we see creation in perspective.
That's right.
And we have relaxed peace.
Yes.
Perfect renunciation
Yes.
based on spiritual mastery.
Yes.
Nothing we attain, like he says, others, right?
Yeah, so either by himself, even says either by himself or others. However it comes.
I feel like that with Prem Prayochan. I
Yeah.
feel like I got something from him that
You did.
he opened up something. He
Yeah.
showed me something. And because he showed me something, he gave me a gift.
Yeah.
Which
and you realize
I
the
more
falsity.
automatically renounce without my ego trying to renounce it.
Yeah, you don't. It's not an artificial
No,
process.
it's not.
It's like, I'm not eating ramen noodles today. It's
Yeah.
like, no, I've got
You can
wonderful
try to
pho
renounce
over here.
everything and really get
Yeah.
frustrated.
Yes.
And you'll never make it if you think you could.
Exactly.
A lot of it is really surrender to the spiritual master that ultimately is
Yes.
the whole key.
That is
It's whole key because
that's
we
the
can't do
ideal.
it. We can only fake it.
Yeah.
But it's a good gesture.
Yeah, yeah. It's ideal, but somehow or other, even it says here, I mean, maybe we'll check the purport and see why it says either by himself or from others. But somehow, if you realize the falsity and misery of this material world, and you leave home and depend fully on the personality of Godhead, this is a first-class activity. Now, I think Prabhupada will surely chime in here. So, there are three classes of transcendentalists, namely the Dhira, or one who is not disturbed by being away from family association. 2, one in the renounced order of life, a sannyasi by frustrated sentiment. meaning he realized that this is miserable, so I'm renouncing this, and I'm becoming a monk. And 3, a sincere devotee of the Lord who awakens God consciousness by hearing and chanting, and leaves home depending completely on the personality of Godhead who resides in his heart. The idea is that the renounced order of life, after a frustrated life of sentiment in the material world, may be the stepping stone on the path of self-realization. But real perfection of the path of liberation is attained when one is practiced to depend fully on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who lives in everyone's heart as Paramatma. One may live in the darkest jungle alone out of home, but a steadfast devotee knows very well that he is not alone. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is with him, and he can protect a sincere devotee in any awkward circumstance. One should therefore practice devotional service at home, hearing and chanting the holy name, quality, form, pastimes, entourage, etc., in association with pure devotees. So what you were saying, Jagadish. These are the 3 levels of transcendentalists. And this practice will help one awaken God consciousness in proportion to one's sincerity of purpose. So not even that you have to leave home. Just take the lessons of the spiritual master, right? We're singing Guru.
He lifts us out of home.
What's that?
He elevates us.
Yes,
up.
and
he lifts. He shows us
he'll teach you how to make your home an ashram.
Exactly.
So we sing Guru Mukha Padma Vakya. Your lotus-like lessons impart. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya. And then what's these lotus-like lessons impart devotion deep into my heart. So if once we get the devotion from the spiritual master, this actually somehow or other elevates us to the 3rd class, or not the 3rd class, the highest tier of transcendentalists. So, because you can free yourself from family association, you can realize this type of life is actually a miserable type of life. 99.9% of people are living this type of life, expecting to be happy, but none of them are happy. And the dear a person realizes this, and I don't need to be in that type of life. There's someone in the renounced order, he might take it a step further. He says, okay, this is very frustrating actually. I'm renouncing this altogether. I'll take orange cloth, I'll become a monk, I'll go live in a monastery. But this is the topmost, a sincere devotee of the Lord who awakens God consciousness by hearing and chanting, hearing from the sadhu, and then chanting, now sharing these glories with others, and leaves home depending completely on the personality of Godhead. So no matter what, even in the darkest jungle, you can always understand the Lord is here. The entire environment is always favorable. Even if tigers are surrounding you, forest fire, everything is surrounding you, no problem. The Lord has a plan here. The Lord is the orchestrator here, and I'm depending on him, like Prahlad Maharaj, when he was being tortured by the demons, and he was saved through every step of it. So now, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is with him, and he can protect a sincere devotee in any awkward circumstance. One should therefore practice devotional service at home, hearing and chanting the holy name, quality, form, pastimes, entourage, etc., in association with pure devotees. And this practice will help one awaken God consciousness in proportion to one's sincerity of purpose. So what's the secret here in order to be this this top level thing? How can you practice devotional service at home? You just said it. What's that? What's needed though to hear and chant? In association with pure devotees. So what would that mean? What would that mean? Okay, well I'm home and I don't have association of pure devotees. What does that mean? What? Yes, I have to find devotees, and the purer the better. The purer the better. If you're at home and you don't have association of pure devotees, I have to find this. Or another option, I have to invite devotees to my home. I have to invite sadhus to my home, or else this is a big problem. So this is why actually the grahastha ashram, those who are in the householder life, this is the recommendation. Invite sadhus from the home, engage in worship from the home, invite other guests over and talk about these things. Believe it or not, I can't find sadhu sangha, and I can only access them. I only have the resources to access them a few times a year. What do? You calling the neighbors over whatever people who can be receptive in having Bhagavad Katha like this is sadhu sangha. You're giving them the opportunity to be sadhus, and then you yourself are actually associating with them as sadhus. This is the recommendation. This is what we should do. Prabhupada, this is what Prabhupada did for many years. He would have many, many programs at his house, but he would invite a lot of time about our Swami Prabhupada. He would take in India, the renounced order of life is very honorable. So if someone is in orange cloth, they will bow to them, they will give them all kinds of respect, even if they're a nonsense person. So Prabhupada, he knew this. So he would invite all his friends and relatives home, and he was associated with Bhaktisiddhanta's Gaudiya Math. But there was many, many duties of all the top-level devotees in the Gaudiya Math. Bhaktisiddhanta can't go to his home. He's a very busy person. And on top of that, even his topmost disciples can't go to his home because they're very busy persons. They're preaching a worldwide preaching movement they began. So sometimes Prabhupada would just get whatever brahmachari he could get from the mat. And he says, you come. And so the brahmachari says, Abai Baba, I don't know anything. You know so much more than me. He said, no, don't worry. Just get on the Vyasasan. I'll handle everything. Don't worry. So he would take the brahmachari, he'd put the brahmachari on the Vyasasan, and then the brahmachari would say, just chant some prayers and start the class. And so the brahmachari would chant some prayers, he'd start the class, and then all of a sudden, Prabhupada, he would speak something, and then Prabhupada would start having a dialogue with him. And then all of a sudden, Prabhupada's dialogue was the main thing of the class. And next thing you know, Prabhupada practically gave all the class, but everyone came to hear from the brahmachari. Yes, exactly, because he was in the orange cloth. And this attracted all of the more materially ambitious surroundings. But then because Prabhupada, in the renounced order, as a humble pharmacist, he had the knowledge, so he's giving everyone the knowledge, like this. So actually, this is what we're called to do. And this is how you have sadhu sangha. Even if you're the most advanced one in the room, you can still have sadhu sangha. When Nrsinga was here, he was saying that Prem Prayojan Prabhu was glorifying any sadhu sangha, whether you have equals, those who are equal to you in devotion, whether you have a topmost sadhu, that's a great opportunity, who's in your midst. But even when you have those who are less advanced than you, it's not you neglect them. Because why? They're looking to you, and they actually, this sadhu sangha was the best thing that ever happened to me. Mm-hmm. Why? Because they're looking to me to be a better example of my devotion. And because I don't want to look like an idiot in front of them, I rise to the occasion to some degree or another. Mm-hmm. Not always perfectly, but my biggest jump in behavior was actually when I started associating regularly with junior sadhus. Mm-hmm. And so this is why kirtan is the main process. Kirtan requires someone to be shravan. In order to do kirtan, someone has to be listening. If there's no shravan, there's no kirtan. So kirtan's the main process, and this will rise you up, because even there is a shortage of top level devotees. Only very rare. Prabhupada said it. It's very rare to meet someone like Vidura. Very rare. And there's even a shortage of maybe, especially the more advanced you become, there's going to be more and more a shortage of those who are your equals. But there will never be a shortage of shortage of juniors. Once you know something, the whole world is at your disposal. You can share, you can have kirtan towards everyone. So kirtan is the main process. So go and share what you've heard. You've heard something. At some point you've heard something. Now you have to share. And that will be an incredible boon in your life, because now what you're sharing, you will live up to what you're sharing. You will live up to what you're sharing. And you'll rise to a deeper level. Ash, Hare Krishna, good morning. So this is what we have to do at our home. Invite sadhus and hear the message of Bhagavat. So one who desires material benefit by such devotional activities can never depend on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although he sits in everyone's heart. So it should be anyavilashita shunyam, without material desire, not covered over by, all right, I'm worshiping God because I want some material benefit. No. We're worshiping the Lord because we want to please the Lord. That's our benefit. And by that, right? All other things shall be added unto you. You'll have everything at your disposal. So, nor does the Lord give any direction. One who desires I read that. Never depend on the Supreme Personality of God, although He sits in everyone's heart. Nor does the Lord give any direction to persons who worship Him for material gain. Such materialistic devotees may be blessed by the Lord with material benefits, but they cannot reach the stage of the first-class human being, as above mentioned. There are many examples of such sincere devotees in the history of the world, especially in India, and they are our guides on the path of self-realization. Mahatma Vidura is one such great devotee of the Lord, and we should all try to follow in his lotus footsteps for self-realization. So being a Prakrita Bhakta or a materialistic devotee or a Kanishta Adhikari will not cut it. The Lord will actually never, He'll never instruct you. He'll never let you take the next step if you don't want it. So meaning, if you're practicing devotion because you want some material benefit out of the situation, which I'll give you a hint, that's everybody when they come to devotion. The 4 people who come to Krishna want something materially from Him. So if you inspect your heart and where you find that, it must be dispelled. And you must hear from someone who can dispel it for you. Because this will ruin, you will never achieve the real glories that having a relationship with the Lord will have if you have these materialistic tinges in your life. So you must dispel this thing, somehow or other. You have to hear from somebody who is free from that thing. That's regularly though. It's not just like, all right, well I heard that guy, he's definitely a sadhu, I went to his one retreat, it was very nice. Yes, but now regularly, you have to regularly keep going, keep hearing, and maybe you won't have access to certain sadhus the whole year round. Okay, who has what I'm looking for? What's the best access I have? What books are giving me the best access that I have? This should be our mission. How can we get that sadhu sangha? And you can get sadhu sangha from books. I mean, we're reading Prabhupada's purports. When he shares this revelations with us, it gives us incredible strength. Then when we talk about it, when experienced devotees talk about these things, it gives us incredible strength. You don't need, it's impossible. Like even Prabhupada and Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta, their disciples did so much of their preaching work for them. Because they heard from them and then they were able to go out and change the hearts of so many. So like this, we need to find, bona fide sadhu, and then also those who are connected, those who are anugatya to them, who also following in their footsteps, and we can learn from them. So whatever access we can, we have to. And we should invite all such personalities to our home. And then also, also take time for your juniors. You should spend at least a portion of time, let me help others, because this will help improve my character. Let me help, the local neighborhood, devotionally inclined people. Something like that. Everyone has a circle of influence in their life. Nobody has no circle of influence, especially out in society. Maybe if you were to be like what Dhritarashtra is called to do and go out into the wilderness and depend on the Lord, that's another thing. But that's actually not what our acharyas are calling us to be. They're saying from right where you're at, practice devotion. So, thank you for this, for joining us for this expression of devotion today. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Is there any? There's nothing pressing from anyone, right? It's pretty open forum. You guys can speak when you want to speak. So, Ash, thanks for joining us. If you want, we have some breakfast available. You sat in on Bhagavatam. So anyone who sits in on the program, they get breakfast from us. So
that's what they do with the Salvation Army.
That's right.
You don't get the food until you listen to the message.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes.
That's how they do
That's
it.
what Prabhupada's
They
system
set it up
was.
like that a long
You don't
time.
get the food unless you listen to the message. There's a couple of mercy foods, but so.
I'll give you a protein bar.
Yeah. So, thank you who joined online, and we'll see you soon.
I need some help if possible. My card, when punctured yesterday.
Your wheel.
Yeah.
You have a flat tire.
Flat tire, and I had to. Luckily, it happened when I was in this parking lot, not very far after the Verizon.
Oh.
There's a Verizon store opposite a bank. So I just took the Uber and got home last night. But is anybody heading to that part of town where I have to call and get a tow truck come out and take care of it? But is there anybody out there or heading that way right now?
Where? Towards you need to go to the Verizon?
Yeah, there is a Verizon. I'll tell you where exactly this place is. I took a picture. So this is opposite the NBT Bank.
What road is it?
NBT Bank, and this was very much at, this is the Verizon at 6901.